Hey, in this video, I'll be installing Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi. I'll also go through the basic onboarding setup and run down the menu options. Coming up on Suburban Nerd. Hey, Suburban Nerd here, putting the smart in smart home. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you find it helpful and informative, go ahead and like and subscribe. Today is going to be part 2 in my Smart Home Starter series. I'm going to be installing Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi. I'll go through the basic onboarding configuration, and then I'll run down the menu options. There's also a companion post to this on my blog at suburbannerd.com, link in the description. And while you're there, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. Subscribers will get regular updates, exclusive content, and special offers. Join today for a free gift. So to get started with Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi, you're going to need a micro SD card. As you can see, this is a little bit bigger than the SIM card in your smartphone. Now, your computer may not have a port for a micro SD card, but it might have an SD card port. And luckily, most micro SD cards are sold with this adapter. Basically, just plug it into the little slot there and then plug this into your computer. But maybe you're like me. My laptop doesn't have any sort of SD card or micro SD card reader. So I have this USB adapter that'll read both types of cards. So once you've got that set up, you download Home Assistant, and I also recommend downloading something like Balena Etcher so you can burn the Home Assistant image onto the micro SD card.
Okay, I've downloaded and installed Balena Etcher. I have the latest version of HASSIO, and I've plugged the micro SD card into the USB adapter, which is now plugged into my laptop. So let's take a look. Alright, now it's asking me for the file I'm going to flash the drive with. Okay, now we have a fully flashed disk. Okay, let's say you want HASSIO to work over Wi-Fi. Personally, I plug it directly into Ethernet cable, but whatever your situation is. So we're in the main boot disk here. You can see it's called HASSOS boot. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call it config. And then we're going to create another folder inside config called network. We're going to spell it correctly. And then within the network subfolder, we're going to create a text document called my-network, or my-network, however you like to pronounce it. And in there, we're then going to go to the Home Assistant OS page, and we're going to copy and paste the appropriate lines of code. So here with the wireless WPA-PSK, and if you've checked out my blog post about network security, you'll know what that is. Basically, it's really good. Well, it's good security for customer or consumer base. We're going to copy and paste that into the file here, where it says SSD, my SSD. This is the name of your Wi-Fi network, and where PSK, my WLAN secret key. That's going to be the password for your Wi-Fi. The rest of the stuff you don't really have to worry about unless you're going to do some really cool stuff with it, but we can come back to that later. Alright, then you're going to save your work, and then you can just close it up. Remember to dismount the drive, don't just pull it, and then you can plug it into your Raspberry Pi and start it up. Okay, now that Home Assistant has successfully installed on the Raspberry Pi, we go to the IP address, :8123 for the port, and it brings you here. Now this is where you're going to create your first user account. Now this one's going to have admin rights, and later on I'll show you where you can add additional user accounts. But let's get started with this one. So first you select a name, and then the username is going to populate with that. If you want to change it, you can. I don't recommend it because it's going to make some configurations more difficult later on if you need to use this. Go ahead and pick a password,
And of course, you're going to be using good password policy like I've written about before, right? Then we're going to confirm the password. Now, this isn't for an online account or anything. This is just for logging in to the local device. All right, and now it's brought us to the location screen, and we can come back to this later. The next page is it's detecting any integration or any platforms that are ready to go for Home Assistant. Now, right now, I just have Philips Hue that's ready to go. You can also hit more, and it'll let you manually add them, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to move on to the next screen. And here's your Home Assistant Lovelace interface. This is your home screen, and it's looking pretty sparse right now. I'll start off with a card called Home. You can go over here with these three dots, hit on that, and you can configure UI. We'll go into this later, configuring the Lovelace interface. But yeah, you can make all types of cards, and you can have it tell you what information you want to know in which situation. It's pretty cool. Some folks have done like spectacular things with it, lots of artwork, things like that. Okay, there's the map for you. Basically, we didn't fix that in the last one, so we'll take care of that in a minute. Logbook tells you all the events and things like that that Home Assistant has detected. And history. Basically some of the information you find in the logbook, and then various user information, updaters, things like that. Okay, now we're looking at the developer tools, and the first tab in here is states, and pretty much what it says it lets you see what state each of your entities are in. So right now the sun is below the horizon. Suburban Nerd, that's the person I created, is in an unknown state because I haven't actually put anything in its config file. And you can run down through here just to see the list of everything you have. This up here is the fast search. Then we have services, and services are just calls to action. Basically, you have the list here, and when one of these is tripped, it'll create, and you select the entity, and then it'll start creating an action. Logs, basically what all other logs are. They're just recording what's going on. Templates. What templates allow is you can make scripts and automations and add variables. So if this is going on, then it'll cause this to happen. Or you can basically have stuff where you can just plug in various names or states or what have you, instead of just having to hand copy everything over and over again. Events it's just kind of like a logbook. This tells you what happened. You see over here various events that have already happened or are available to happen. And listeners are other entities that are looking to see that happen. Here's info, and this is what it says it is, info. The version of Home Assistant you're running, where your config files are, stuff like that. Important stuff when you are, especially when you're deep diving into things, you're going to want to know a lot of this stuff. And this part is Supervisor, which is exclusive to HASSIO. It manages the HASSIO installation itself. And you'll see the first tab here in Dashboard, lets you know what's going on in HASSIO. And it's supposed to list your add-ons, but we haven't added any yet, so this is going to be blank. Here's Snapshot, which is the backup, I really wish I took more advantage of this because I've screwed up HASSIO so many times, and I've had to start over from scratch and try to remember what I've done. But yeah, this is how you create backups. You should do this before you start any changes to HASSIO. So let's get started here. So we'll do a full snapshot. Call it test. On full snapshot agreement. And basically, it just pulls up the thing, download snapshot, and that's now in my downloads folder. I can save to another drive and restore later. The add-on store. Now this is really cool.
Here are the official add-ons, and these are the ones that are made by the Home Assistant or are officially approved by Home Assistant. And this is just allows you to integrate various services and such. This is the community HASSIO add-ons. These are fans and enthusiasts who have gotten together and they've expanded the availability of HASSIO. And also, if you add someone's GitHub repository, like Frank, you'll get even more. Actually, I believe the community, Frank actually made the community add-on. So yeah, other people will make their repositories available so you can add them on as well. And system just lets you know what's going on with HASSIO. And there's your system log. This is the stuff you want to check when you add something or you make a configuration. It usually come up in big red letters if something's gone wrong. And now we're in the configuration option. And we're going to start with the Home Assistant Cloud. Now, if you've read my blog posts in the past, you know I'm not a huge fan of cloud services, but this is by Nabukasa, who actually make Home Assistant and HASSIO, and they do really good work. They're not trying to collect your data and sell it off. They're just trying to make Home Assistant accessible to devices like Amazon Echo or Google's devices. So yeah, and for a $5 subscription fee, you can have remote access or cloud access to your Home Assistant setup, and that money goes towards developing HASSIO and Home Assistant. So I think it's a pretty good cause. I'm actually going to sign up for this for the purpose of the tutorial. And next we have integrations, and an integration is the core logic for functionality in Home Assistant. So basically, how things work within Home Assistant. Next we have devices, which is simple enough. It is a physical object that does something within Home Assistant. Entities is pretty much everything. It's the representation of any devices or services or integrations or anything like that. Now, any one device or integration or service can actually have multiple entities depending on what you're having it do. So, you may have a Philips Hue hub like I do, and it's going to serve multiple purposes and perform multiple actions, so it may have more than one entity on. Areas, and this is how you organize your devices based on their physical location. So you can create multiple rooms, or you can just name blocks off of your house, stuff like that. Like you can make a home entertainment center if you wanted. And next we have the automations feature. And an automation offers the capability to call a service based on a trigger. And it can be complex or it can be simple, such as, let's say, the sun goes down. That might turn lights on in certain rooms in your house or all over the house. Or when you leave the house like here, turns out your lights. Okay. And scenes, they capture the state of multiple devices. They let you say, if you want to turn on the kitchen lights because it's dinner time, that might cause all the lights in the living room and the TV to turn off, to get everyone out of there and at the kitchen table for dinner. And scripts are components that allow you to make a sequence of actions that can be executed. And when you put multiple scripts together, you get automations. Next up, we have persons, and persons are basically entities created for Home Assistant. This works well if you are, say, setting up presence detection. So you want to say, myself and my better half are both home, so it'll turn on certain lights, or it might maybe set off a playlist on Spotify. It's not a user account. It doesn't really have anything to do. It can just trigger automations. zones. Basically just areas that you can set for presence detection. Believe it or not, you can set up zones in areas that are not part of your home. There's actual cloud services and stuff you can connect to that'll set that off. So if, say, I leave work and I have Life 360, a cloud service set up on my phone, it'll actually trigger automations within Home Assistant that'll say, tell my better half, hey, make sure there's a cold beer and a warm dinner on the table. And here's users. Users are actually how you log into Home Assistant and how you can actually configure the interface and things like that. So let's say I make a user called for my better half. Create. Now I can change and say, just make this a user, but as you can see, they're still working on that. There's still some bugs. After all, Home Assistant is still in beta. We'll just leave that as administrator. And then we go down in notifications, pretty much what it says. If there's anything major that you need to know, like maybe there's an update available, some sort of system-wide warning that all Home Assistant users should know, it'll be in here. And this is the current logged in user. And just let you know what's going on here, your preferences, things like that. You want to change your password, set up multi-factor authentication. Probably don't need to do that right now. Yep. So that is the basic setup of Home Assistant.
And there you have the initial setup and configuration of Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi. I hope it was helpful and informative for you. Keep following this channel to get more videos about adding devices and automations in the future. Also, check out the companion post over at suburbannerd.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll get regular updates, special offers, and exclusive content. I'm Suburban Nerd, putting the smart in smart home, and thanks so much for watching.